these.
താങ്കൾ വിളിക്കുന്ന വ്യക്തി കോളുകൾ സ്വീകരിക്കുന്നില്ല. ദയവായി അല്പസമയത്തിന് ശേഷം ശ്രമിക്കൂ. In today's episode, I'll talk about two stories. In the first one, I'll talk about how some of India's top hotel chains are all taking very different bets on the future of India's hotel business. And in the second story of the day, I'll talk about how mobile networks in India might soon work without requiring so many underground cables that they currently require. Welcome to the Daily Brief Show by Zerola, where our aim is to cut through the noise and simplify the biggest news and stories in the financial markets in a way that is easy for all of us to understand, yet one level deeper as compared to your traditional news channels. I'm your host Anurag Bansal, and today is Tuesday, the 3rd of June. Some of the top hotel chains of India recently released their financial results for the fourth quarter of FY 2025, and most of them had a very strong quarter. But to understand why and what that even means, let's first understand the business that hotels are in, because this is pretty interesting. See, a hotel in very simple words is a massive asset, usually built on expensive land. It is filled with rooms and amenities, and it is run by hundreds of staff. That is the basic definition of it. And that kind of definition means that hotels have very high fixed costs, and whether or not people come to stay there, those costs do not go away. And of course, demand is unpredictable, because it can shoot up when tourism booms or new offices open in the city, but it can quickly drop if there is a global crisis, but travel advisory or just too many hotels entering the market. So hotels are always navigating a very tricky situation. They have to place long-term bets while they also have to deal with short-term shocks in their business. So with that basic context in place, let's look at three hotel companies that recently reported results: Indian Hotels Company Limited or IHCL, Chalet Hotels, and Lemon Tree Hotels. Now mind you, each of these three players plays a very different game from each other, which makes this entire space very interesting and fun to track. Let's start with IHCL, which is the biggest of these three. Now this group runs the Taj brand, and it also has a portfolio that stretches across luxury, premium, and budget hotels. Chalet, on the other hand, focuses mainly on premium hotels in bigger cities, and they also earn steady rental income from their commercial properties. And on the other hand, Lemon Tree, which is relatively the smallest in terms of revenue, has carved out a bit of a niche in the mid-market segment, and they are aggressively growing in their asset-light model. Now, like I said, all of these three companies had a good quarter. IHCL, thanks to its scale, reported hotel revenues of more than 2,200 crore rupees, which is nearly 6 times Lemon Tree's revenue and around 4 times Chalet's revenue. And more importantly, it translated 848 crore rupees of that into EBITDA, while their profits rose 25% to 666 crore rupees. Their occupancy was also strong at about 80% and was the best among the three hotels that we're looking at. On the other hand, Lemon Tree, despite being relatively smaller, showed some impressive operational strength. They brought in 379 crore rupees in revenue, which is up 15% from the year before. EBITDA came in at about 205 crore rupees with a high margin of 54%. Their occupancy was around 77.6%, which is just slightly below IHCL's. Profits were up 29% to 108 crore rupees, and the company has been paying down its debt slowly, and its debt is now 10% lower than it was about a year ago. And talking about Chalet, their numbers look great as well. Revenues rose 27% to 537 crore rupees, and EBITDA rose faster, up 36% to 257 crore rupees. Profits also shot up 50% to 124 crore rupees, and their occupancy was 76%. But what really stood out was its daily average rate, or the average price that they charge for every occupied room, which was at a massive 18,345 rupees. And that, mind you, is about double what Lemon Tree charges, which basically reflects Chalet's premium positioning. Now the thing is, these numbers sort of don't exist in isolation. One very interesting shortcut of sorts to understand how Indian hotels might be doing in the short term is actually to look at air travel data. Now of course, it's not a perfect comparison because not every flyer books a hotel and not every hotel gets flights, of course. But that said, there is still a very strong overlap here. Both cater to people traveling to work or leisure, and both also depend on higher disposable income. See, over the last year or so, India's air passenger traffic has been growing pretty steadily, usually by more than 10% year on year. Now that likely led to hotel sector's strong performance. But anyway, let's zoom in a little bit here and understand this a little better. So the hotel industry is clearly made up of two kinds of customers: those who are traveling for business or those who are traveling for leisure. It's very simple. And the kind of hotel that you build really depends a lot on who you are building it for. In a business-heavy city, hotels tend to be larger and more standardized in nature. The idea is basically to pack in as many rooms as possible and benefit from scale. In these destinations, though, hotels tend to be relatively smaller, more spread out, and they also focus on delivering an experience. Now, Chalet's management describes this trade-off very well. They say that business hotels enjoy lower cost per room due to size, but private hotels, while they are smaller and costlier to run as well, can charge higher average prices. That said, hotels also make different bets across different price segments. That is why they often launch separate brands as well. Lemon Tree, for instance, uses the brand called Orica and Lemon Tree Premium for upscale customers, and Red Fox for slightly more budget conscious guests. IHCL, on the other hand, uses Taj for luxury, while Vivanta and Ginger to go after relatively more affordable segments. Now, these decisions are long-term. It takes years to build up a hotel, and it stays out for decades as well. So when a hotel company invests in a new brand or a location for that matter, what they're not betting on is this year's demand, but what they're trying to guess is what demand will look like, say, India's growing middle class. They believe that more Indian families will soon reach a level of income where hotel stays will become a regular part of their life, not just a rare luxury. They say that India is right now at a turning point, and as income grow in the future, spending on categories like travel will shift from discretionary to essential, just like it has done in other fast-growing economies. IHCL strategy also tells us something interesting about how they see the future. They are betting big on expanding their newer mid-range brands. Their Ginger brand now has crossed 100 properties, and they are building out leisure. Users are rewarded in